I wanted to just get a comment on the police badge that you're wearing. It's in rainbow. Can you just tell me a little bit about when that happened, why you're wearing it?
Well, the police patch came in about 2 years ago, and we're just starting to get it disseminated throughout the service. So I'm actually the creator of the patch here in Calgary.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a member of the community, and I also run our employee resource group within the service. So part of the patch is for us to bridge the gap with the community as police officers because of the history, and also to show the members within the service that we have our own diverse employees within the service to just kind of keep that in mind, and when we're out in public, people can see that we're supporting the community and we support each other within.
Awesome. Can you just do like a 360 for me? Creator of the patch right here, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see.
Oh, good. Obviously this is public space. You're totally free to hear and do whatever you want to do, like your media.
Yeah.
It's just like I have to ask to not be asking these questions to people, especially about like kids and consent. It's really uncomfortable for people to be cornered into these questions.
Selene Galas here for Rebel News, and today I'm out at Central Memorial Park where it is the second day of Pride kicking off, and we're going to start the morning bright and early with a drag reading. And I'd like to show the adults and the parents what's going on, the type of literature that is being promoted at the events. It's very progressive, gender-based ideologies that infuses children's minds with confusion, so I would love to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I want to point out this sign in particular. This one reads, "Your body is a battleground." Now, I'm not sure what that is supposed to mean or why anybody would think that their body is anything close to a battleground. I mean, are we talking about the way that they're carving up children and they're allowing them to go under these heinous medical procedures? Young men and women having their bodies carved up by physicians just because it's in the name of being inclusive. Repeal anti-gay laws now. This one is interesting. My plan is to have an honest conversation with whoever will be up to speaking with me in regards to puberty blockers and if this community in general is aware of the long-term negative effects that are associated with taking the drug called Lupron, which, if you didn't already know, if you didn't see my video where I asked our Health Minister of Canada. In some Canadian jurisdictions, minors as young as 14 can legally consent to hormonal therapy such as Lupron. This is known to be used in prison to chemically castrate sex offenders. Why is it being deemed safe for individuals as young as 8 years old?
Well,
It's a loaded question.
Good question. To be providing a good answer, I would need to get back to you because I need to understand better the context. Otherwise, the answer won't be very useful to you.
Lupron is used to chemically castrate sex offenders, but it's being given to youth as puberty blockers. So when it comes to puberty blockers, I was made aware that minors can consent to taking them. And I think that there should be additional resources for children that are going through, identity crisis or they're confused about who they might be, right? But the thing is that these drugs are actually used to chemically castrate sex offenders, and they're being given to children, and there are lots of known adverse effects. Do you think that parents should have a say in this procedure?
Speaking as a trans person, getting medical access to transition is next to impossible. It's so difficult, especially for younger people. And I think that what a lot of people don't realize about hormone blockers when you give them to young children is that for the most part it's completely reversible.
We've never had a generation of kids that has had this done to them. Like they're lab rats. So we're just kind of trying this out on a whole generation of kids. But based on what we do know, we know that these are serious drugs. A little bit later in that same interaction, we talk about what the actual drug is. The actual puberty blocking drug is Lupron. That's what it's called. And it is used off-label to, quote, block puberty.
How many studies do they have, long-term studies, on hormone blockers with children? None.
Is Lupron chemical castration?
Yes. We're giving it to pedophiles, aren't we? We're giving it to people that are dying, and we're giving it to kids, telling them that they were born in the wrong body and it's completely safe.
Of course, there is, like if you give it a high enough dosage or whatever, I don't know exactly. Of course, it can be used as chemical castration for predators and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's such a different case, and I think that it's just another case of people connecting sexual predators to the LGBT community which sucks because they're not connected at all.
I noticed your shirt and I just wanted to get like your comment on it. Do you want to just like show the viewers, do a little twirl for us? Amazing. So, what do you support about trans kids?
Well, being a trans child myself growing up, I know how difficult it could be, especially not having the vocabulary back then that we have now. I really like how free they are to just be themselves. And, no one deserves to be repressed and like pushed back into the closet. So, and the shirt I got at the Skipping Stone Foundation.
Okay. And do you think that there is, like, in terms of people looking out from the outside and having their own judgments and whatnot, do you think that there's ever an age that's too young for children to come and be a part of an event like this?
No, absolutely not, right? Like, love is love, and people should just be able to express that however they want. And I feel that it's great for young children to be able to experience something like this, right? I mean, like, it might not be for everyone, but who are we to deny who people can be?
Yeah, for sure. I've heard actually in the United States there's a couple of different medical clinics that are actually coming out and saying that kids as young as even just being in the womb can actually now self-identify and know what their gender is.
So most of the patients that we have in the GEMS clinic actually know their gender, usually around the age of puberty, but a good portion of children do know as early as seemingly from the womb, and they will usually express their gender identity as very young children, some as soon as they can talk.
Or do you believe that?
Well, being in the womb, I'm not sure if there's still like conscious thought happening in there, so I'm not going to.
But maybe right out of the womb, perhaps.
In terms of parents having a say, again, I think like medically it's the whole like 18 or 19 or however old it is in wherever you are.
Yeah.
But I think that it should be also the child's choice. I think that the argument of you're too young to know.
Yeah.
With that argument, you're too young to know that you're cis.
Yeah.
You know, that you're not trans.
Yeah. Would you think that it's like something like that, like to transition or to take that sort of medication? Do you think that it's probably one of the most important things that an individual could make the decision to do for themselves?
I think for some people, absolutely. I think that medical transition is, hello bug, is the number one thing for them. It is the most important. I know that for other people, it's social transition, it's personal transition. It really depends person to person.
So what about the people that think that this is totally inappropriate for children to be at, and they're too young and it's exposing children to the over-sexualization of women and whatnot? What would you think about that?
I completely disagree with that because, I'm not sure how to even answer that one. I disagree with it because the earlier that they learn that people are not just straight, cisgender people, I think that's very important.
And just what is cisgender? I'm sorry, I'm learning these terms myself.
Straight, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, straight.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter is, she identifies in the LGBTQ plus community as well.
Yeah.
And I've always been very supportive of her.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I not, right?
Yes.
That'd be a little hypocritical, but no, I think it's very important. And people that want to hide the kids from it, I don't think that's good for the kids in the long run.
What news agency are you with?
I'm independent reporting.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Okay, yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. Fine. I identify as an independent journalist. What are...
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Memorial Park Library, and welcome to Pride at the Library. So first of all, is everybody ready? First of all, my hands say hello with the clap, clap, clap. My feet say hello with the tap, tap, tap. Clap, clap, clap. Tap, tap, tap. Turn around and bow.
First of all, what brings you to Pride? Why is this event special to you?
Yeah, so I think like the Reading with Royalty program is really incredible because, I don't know, it really empowers kids to be authentic. So, I don't know, there's always talk of like the gay agenda and whatever, and I really don't think that's what it's about. I think it's like about empowering people to be who they really are, and that for a lot of us is like very colorful, very bold. but it's about authenticity and like celebrating. So yeah, it means a lot to me. Like the question Joey asked of like, so like what kind of drag performing do you like to do? It's like, for sure I love to sing, but yeah, I love connecting with kids. So for me, yeah, the kid element is really meaningful.
I think that kids should be able to consent to these procedures without parental advisement, because in BC they actually have initiated something called the Infants Act. Children as young as 8 years old can go to a clinic, talk to a doctor, be given this prescription, and their parents don't have to know. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I'm personally very grateful I don't have to do any of the legislation for consent, because I think consent is like a very slippery slope in any sense, and legality is best left to people that have that expertise. So I'm just grateful I don't have to make those decisions.
Yeah. But do you think that kids should be able to make this choice for themselves being that young? Because if we're not going to give them the right to vote or to drive a car, it's irreversible. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very important when you're making like life-altering decisions to have guidance. Like I said, any sort of opportunity to have knowledge outside of like one person, I think is preferable. So I can't really speak to consent or legality, like I said, because I don't have that background, but I can speak to like, if you're making a major decision, regardless of how old you are, you should always have a network of people consulting with you.
Oh, good. Obviously this is public space. You're totally free to hear and do whatever you want to do, like your media.
Yeah.
It's just like I have to ask to not be asking these questions to people, especially about like kids and consent. It's really uncomfortable for people to be cornered into these questions. So I can't tell you to stop. It's you're free to do whatever you want, but just as a Calgary Pride organizer, that's our preference. But like I said, park's yours to use as well. So
fair. What about it is deemed like inappropriate though?
So this is like a kid-friendly event, and like asking all these like really provocative questions. Like they're good questions, but
what's provocative specifically?
You're asking about like hormone blockers and consent and children. Like there's
parents
kids
ought
around.
to know. I think.
Yeah, everyone can make their own decisions. Totally.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
So gender and sex are different then. Let's say.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me how? Yeah.
Biologically too. It's actually really interesting because scientifically they are two completely different things. A lot of people say, oh, there's two genders. Biologically, no.
There's actually three sexes biologically.
There's actually three biological sexes.
There's five livable sexes.
Can you tell me? I've never heard this before. Like I need to know.
Male, female, intersex.
And then it's
you can essentially be born as both or neither.
And then
physiologically speaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's another one, I can't remember what, it might be XYY, and then I think it might be XXX.
Yeah, there's chromosomal.
And basically these are just, they sometimes are called genetic disorders, but it technically could be defined as a different sex.
As a different sex.
Yeah.
And they can live completely normal lives with just different puberty events.
Gender and sex are completely different. Absolutely. Gender is how you feel, what you express.
Yeah.
And sex is defined by 6 different characteristics, like body parts, chromosomes, external parts, and then the other 3 I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So I think that the important distinction of gender and sex is something that we have to talk about more often, because society is so set on men and women when really it's men, everything in between, women, and everything outside of that.
So it's like
I just think of it, gender is a more societal thing, while sex is a biological. Sex is an inheritable thing that almost every living creature deals with. Gender is not. A lion doesn't have like they don't, the man goes to work. They have biological instincts that come from being a sex.
Do you think that these instincts can be inherently influenced by the society that we have, that we grow up in? Like school system, movies, right? Stuff like that?
That's where we get gender roles, and that's where we get the oppression of certain genders.
Just to play devil's advocate, do you think if gender roles can be influenced for like heteros, let's say, because I'm sorry, I forgot the term cis, identifying persons, what about in regards to people that identify outside? Do you think that those roles could have been inherently influenced by society, by movies, by pop culture? What do you think about that?
Yeah, one thing that we like to preach is that, identity isn't static, and so it is okay to constantly be going through and changing how you identify, because that's experimenting, and that's how you figure out like how you want to identify yourself. So
Just figured everything else out. Why can't we do that for society too? Society experimented
Yeah.
to figure out what works.
Scientific experiment
we
of
can-
your gender.
Yeah, basically.
Well, there you have it. That's a wrap. I think that I had some pretty good conversations with folks about some of the concerns that society has in general, I guess you could say. Some of them about puberty blockers, some of them about the difference between there being, identity issues in regards to how people identify between their own sex as well as their gender identity, because for some people, I guess it is explicitly a thing that is not related in any shape or form. Regardless, I hope that you enjoyed the content that we provided today. As always, for Rebel News, I'm Selene Galas. Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to jump in here quick before the end of the video to urge you to go to rebelinvestigates.com and consider chipping in. It helps us for when we file to access for information similar to what I did when I exposed how much the city of Calgary spent on the Reading with Royalty program. Now, if you haven't seen that video that I did, I urge you to go and check that out. I won't spoil it, but let's just say that the city was spending way too much money paying drag queens to travel around and read left, progressive-based ideological books to your children. Now that's it. I want to thank you so much for tuning in again.